Good morning, everybody, and welcome to TLC Live. I'm Andrea Gomez.
And I'm Orlando Sanchez.
It's so cold.
It's cool.
It's so cold. Well, for you, it's nothing.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
But it's freezing in Houston. Hello, everybody. Well, we have an interesting show. We started the year, the 2023, talking about what it was going to be the Texas legislature. And now we're going to have somebody or two people, hopefully, to talk about what is happening so far in the Texas legislature.
Yep. So let's go straight to Ryan Guillen because, as you know, the Texas legislature is in session. And Ryan Guillen is a member of the Texas House of Representatives, District 31, won handily in his election. So congratulations, Ryan. Tell us what committees are you on and what are your legislative agendas and goals for this session and what's going on in the Texas House?
Well, thank you all. Thank you all for having me on. Can you hear me?
We hear you great.
All right. Well, good. Thank you all. Committees have not been assigned yet as of this week. We expect them probably next week. And they have been assigned in the Senate, though. But we're looking forward to getting to work as soon as we get committee assignments and as soon as committees can hire staff and get to work. But ahead, there's no question about that, and we're looking forward to getting started.
Ryan, want to remind our viewers that you had been a member of the Texas legislature and you had run as a Democrat before, but last year you switched. Give us what's it been like? In other words, has the reception been good among conservatives in the state of Texas? Have you received the support you anticipated? I'm sure your philosophy hasn't changed. I think that you have always been a somewhat conservative member of the Texas House, and you. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what led you to switch sides?
Yeah, no, it's been a very, very welcoming transition, no question about it, and we got elected in the primary and then in the general, and did real well in both, and so we're very appreciative of so many people, not only from the district but from across the state and across the country, that was so supportive in our efforts. You know, You're right. You're right. Not much has changed. Maybe a little. I think positions that I was taking for all of these years are now easier to take as a Republican, and I think that's the one major change, of course. And so, I'm really, really excited to be able to now vote the way mostly the way I've voted in the past, but doing so without breaking party lines. And I think that's what we're fixing to do. And I'm excited about doing it in this manner.
Well, it takes political courage to do that. I'm sure that you went through a long process of sort of self-evaluation and, what are the pros and what are the cons. But I got to tell you, and it's not like there's precedent. There's no precedent for it. Everybody knows Ronald Reagan was a Democrat. Rick Perry was a Democrat. Phil Gramm was a Democrat. And a lot of people do that evaluation. It's as sometimes the parties move away sort of from the tenets, your values. Elected officials have to make this determination. Where is my home? And I'm glad to hear that you have been welcomed. And I'm also glad the transition has been smooth. And on behalf of all Republicans in the state of Texas, I just want to say welcome, and we're proud of you because it does take leadership to stand up and make that decision. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of risk associated with that, but you stood up and you decided to take that risk.
Yeah, and I think that it's the same thing that many across South Texas have been doing and are doing. I think it was evident this election cycle in many of the races. Of course, we now have two Republicans from the Valley, including me and Janie Lopez in the Texas House. We have a member of Congress from the Valley now. But even in races where the Republican didn't win necessarily in South Texas, you did see great advances in their numbers just from 2 years ago, and particularly from over the last 10 years. You see a trend across the region, and so I think folks in South Texas are cozying up to the idea that conservative values are better represented by Republicans, and so we these are the values that we grew up with. These are the values that are continue to be very, very important to the people of South Texas. And we're talking about this legislative session. I think one of the big priorities, if not the biggest priority, for the governor and the lieutenant governor and the speaker and all of us, is doing something for property taxes. And I think it's a priority of the people, not only in South Texas but across the state. Property taxes are absolutely out of control, and we need to do something significant to deliver on these issues that we've talked about in the election process.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. But, another big issue, I think, at least for me personally, that I advocate for is education in the state of Texas. As the Texas population becomes more diverse, with more, Hispanics and African Americans and people of Asian descent, it's important that we give every child an opportunity to succeed in the state of Texas. And that's why I'm a big advocate of education. I came to this country as an immigrant I was a refugee, and I didn't even speak English. And so it's education that allows us the opportunity. And the reason I'm excited about you, Ryan, and John Lujan and Mano DeAyala and Janie and even Tony Gonzalez and Monica de la Cruz is that we need all the help we can get in the Republican Party to reach out to diverse communities. As I said, the Republican Party has a lot of suits, and a lot of those suits didn't like to go to the barrios. They don't like to go to the hood. But it's imperative that we talk about conservative values to everybody in the state of Texas. And the reason I'm excited about you and John Lujan and Mano is that you guys do carry that message into your communities a lot better than, let's say, the RPT or anyone else. And so we've got a lot of work to do. And I'll tell you, we have a guest coming up that I'm excited about listening to, but we also have a lot of work to do with our brothers and sisters in the African American community. I think they're starting to realize, yeah, there was a time where maybe the Democrats, were aligned with our values, but no more. So I'm excited about that. And talk to us a little bit about education. Where do you rank the theme of education in your priorities this year?
Oh, of course, it's very, very important. Of course, I represent a very rural district, and we've got some of the main occupations in the district are in education as a result. And so we've got a lot of teachers. I come from a family of teachers. I am a former ag teacher myself, and I'm a son of an ag teacher. And my mother was a teacher, and my grandmother is a retired teacher, and my great grandmother was also a teacher. And so we come from a long line of educators. And it's no question, it continues to be one of the top issues and priorities that we've got to deal with, making sure we've got a good education system, making sure that rural Texas has all the opportunities. The students in our towns have the same opportunities and as good of an opportunity to an education and to succeed as anybody else. That continues to be a priority. And going back to what you were talking about taking the message to the folks in South Texas, I think that we saw that in this last election cycle. We had counties like Jim Hogg County. Jim Hogg County they were formed in 1913 in the legislature in 1913, and since then, no Republican had ever won in or had ever had 50% of the vote or more in Jim Hogg County. We got, I think it was around 56 or 57% of the vote for the first time, the first Republican to do that since the creation of Jim Hogg County. And you have other counties like Duval County, where I think we were the first Republican to win since 1904, and then Starr County, first since 1892. And in Starr County, that's my home county. Starr County, we got over 70% of the vote, in fact, in Starr County as a Republican for the first time since 1892. I think that what you're seeing is that folks are willing to vote for a Republican. Not only are they willing to vote for a Republican, I think that they're identifying with those conservative values of Republicans. But the most important lesson I think that we could take from it is that they want somebody that's local, that's one of them, that understands their concerns, that they trust will do the work that they sent us to do. That's very, very important. And so it's important to have that element representing your interests. And so I think that we've got a good roadmap looking forward. And but ultimately, I also think that it's something that was ready to happen, and it needed something to get it started. And I hope that we accomplish that, and that we can now move forward and do better things.
Awesome. Quick question: is Kinney County in your district?
No, that's a little farther north from me.
Okay. Okay.
It's,
All right.
yeah.
Ryan, what was the wake up call that you got that it tell you I need to switch parties, I need to go to the conservative side, and what would be the message not only for the Latinos or the community in general in South Texas, but also along the Texas? Because we've been seeing this swift and this change, especially in the Latinos, that for years and decades they were thinking that they were Democrats because of their family, their parents, or the grandparents, or maybe that's your case. I'm not sure, but then they realize and reading more and educating themselves, and now that they go to college, because some of them, the first generation that graduate from college, they realize that, okay, wait a minute, I'm not along with any of the Democratic values. I am more from the conservative side.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it was the sense that folks were ready for it. It was I got a sense that it might be time. I think years ago, I would have, if you would have asked me the same question, I would have said, I'm not sure the people in South Texas are ready. And last year, I started to feel differently based on my conversations with people, based on being around folks in the district. I started to feel that it was time, and so that's why we moved on it. Uh, and ultimately, that's what it takes. That's what it takes. I can't convince somebody of everything, right? Nobody can. But if they're ready to talk about it, if they're ready to act on it, then I think that's the right time. And I like you mentioned, we took a big risk because you know it may or may not have been the time. It turned out that the risk paid off, and it was the right time. And so I think that's the best way I could explain it.
Ryan, thank you for your time. We really appreciate you coming on and giving us a brief of what's going on. We hope to have you back in a couple of weeks as the session moves on, and you can tell us about your committees and give us an update. I know you've got a lot of work to do, so go take care of the constituents' business, and Godspeed, and we look forward to having you again.
I look forward to it the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you, Ryan.
Representative Guillen. And I guess we're going to move over to Harris County. And we have another Hispanic member of the Texas House of Representatives we're very proud of.
Otro cubano.
He has a little Cuban root in him, and that's State Representative Mano DeAyala. So Mano is with us. Mano, welcome to the program.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So we were asking Ryan about any updates. We had you on a couple of weeks. We're not going to keep you much longer than about 5 or 10 minutes, but give us an update. What's going on in Austin?
Well, if representatives like Ryan, are willing to help, the new guys like me, we're going to do just fine. No, we've got a very a unique session coming up because we have this historic surplus, so that we are one of the great things about the session, great things about the way Texas is run is with our balanced budget, we cannot spend more than a population increase plus some inflationary factor. So we cannot spend money without voters' approval. And so what we're trying to do here is, in addition to the other things that we need to do in the session, these economic issues on how to better fund education, how to reduce property taxes, how to do very smart infrastructure type projects, and those sorts of things are the kinds of things that we haven't had the luxury to look at like we are looking at it now with this session with this surplus. So that's one thing. That's what's new about this session. But we've got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do in this session to improve on a lot of the good things in the state.
Well, everybody knows you're a rookie in the Texas House of Representatives.
I was gonna ask the same thing. How was the first day of school?
Have they played?
It's like the first day of school.
Have they played any pranks on you? What's it like to be a freshman legislator in Texas?
Well, I'm just glad that Representative Guillen didn't paddle me or anything. So, no, look, it's been great. One of the things that's a little unique, I think, for Texas, I don't know if unique is the right word, but in contrast to DC, we have a very collegial group of folks. We sit on the House floor, Republicans and Democrats. We don't sit one side or the other. We office next to each other. 75-80% of what comes out in legislation is bipartisan. It's really nonpartisan in a lot of respects. But there are those very conservative issues that we hold true, and we have some division there, but it is more the exception than the norm. So it's a really good environment, and we got some, especially in Harris County, we got some really good folks that are trying to make improvements to help our communities. So.
It made your expectations, or it went beyond your expectations? What was your, the feeling of, especially, the first 2 weeks? It's like, wow, this is what I expect. This is what I imagine, or it changed the whole spectrum of what you were expecting.
Well, so I've worked with the legislature on issues in the past, like pension reforms in Houston and Houston, and some other things. So I've had familiarity in the past with the body and the subject matter and how it works, but being in it is a very different thing. And I will tell you that it's still drinking from a fire hose, but every day I'm here, I know more and more that this is where I need to be, and I'm just so excited about doing the work. We do it in Texas, we do it different. We do a sprint of 140 days, so we have to gear up and get to work quickly.
Representative Guillen says that the committee assignments haven't been made yet, but do you get to put in a you get to tell the speaker, Mr. Speaker, these are my interests, these are the committees I would like to serve on, or do they just tell you, look, you're going here and you're going there?
So you do give your preferences, what you are interested in, where your skill sets are, those sorts of things you do, and the speaker tries to accommodate as much as possible. He's putting 150 people, pieces in a puzzle and making it fit and work well, and trying to accommodate so many people. So he likes to see your second and third choices to try to accommodate those as well.
Okay. Well, again, we know you're busy, and I can tell that you, are you in Houston or are you up in Austin?
I'm in Austin.
In Austin,
I'm in
that's not the
So,
background from
so yeah,
Houston. I know that.
I think they put him in the annex. He didn't get the office next to
No,
the speaker.
but hold on. So this is a map of Harris County. So this is our county, and it was in my predecessor's office, Jim Murphy. So I've got some really neat things from the former 133 state rep Jim Murphy and his predecessor, for Judge Eccles, who had this seat as well. So
Yeah.
uh,
And Jim and I are high school buddies. We're in the same class at Straight Jesuit in Houston, but I promised never to tell stories about him, and I don't think he's ever told any about me, so I'm grateful.
well,
Mano, thank you.
thank
Congratulations.
you.
We hope that
Appreciate
you
the
get to
work you
work,
guys are doing.
and we'll bring you back again, just like Representative Guillen, in a couple of months or a couple of weeks, and give us an update.
Be happy to. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Mano.
Gracias, mano. Ciao. Okay, so now we have Brian. Let's see if I pronounce the last name right. Brian Bledsoe. What do you think?
Well, I can't see. Let's see. Bledsoe, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I don't even have my glasses
He is
on.
a Blexit, Texas state director. So we're going to learn what is Blexit and why he decided, because I'm reading about his biography, and he's saying that after years of living in total indifference to world of politics, all of a sudden, believing in Jesus Christ in 2007, he said he changed Brian's completely outlook of life, and he said he come with a revaluation that the progressive principles are not coincident with his principal values. So let's welcome Brian. I said write your last name, Brian. We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. I think you're mute.
Sorry.
There we
Okay.
I
go.
was muted.
It's okay.
Yes. Yeah. So Orlando said it more correctly.
Of course, my pronunciation is Latina pronunciation.
Brian,
Yeah. So it's
we do English lessons here. I mean, Andrea, she's still learning.
yeah. So I know. Well, now it's kind of outdated, but a lot of times when they see my last name, they think of the Cowboys quarterback Drew Bledsoe because it's pretty much the same.
Okay. Okay. Well, Brian, tell us about Blexit and tell us about your background.
So Blexit is basically the black exit from the victim mentality that has been such a stronghold in not only African American communities but in minority communities. And we're just trying to be out there and have an alternative to whatever the progressive policies that are so detrimental to our communities. And as far as my background, kind of like what you mentioned in the bio, it was I said early 2008 where it came to where I noticed that the party that I was voting for was not in alignment with my at that time new Christian values, and I did my own research, and then after about a couple months of literally listening to both sides, and that's when I guess had the realization that I need to vote more conservative, and that was the first time I voted Republican was in that year 2008.
Interesting. So I want to get into the nitty gritty, Brian. You know, sometimes as the demographics of the state of Texas changes, and I think that you heard me say this to Representative Guillen, as you know, you heard that he switched parties. He was a Democrat in South Texas, and he became a Republican last year, right before the primaries. Our party, the Republican Party, the conservative movement, needs to grow, and it needs to grow in urban areas as well as suburban areas. This is where we're weak. And as you know, urban areas in Texas, whether it's Dallas or Harris County or even Bexar County, has a large population of Hispanics and African Americans. We make up a big chunk of the population in urban Texas. So my advice to Republicans has always been, we need, first of all, we need to grow the party. Number two, we need to be in those communities. And we need to apply conservative principles to urban problems. what other advice would you add if you were talking to the leadership in the conservative movement in Texas? What other advice would you give to branch out, to talk to the community?
Well, the first thing that I will mention is because a lot of times when we talk about as far as outreach, it's something that has to be ongoing. It can't be something that where you come into the community for a couple of months before, right before election, and then and do nothing, before or after. And that requires a long-term investment. And I can understand the sentiment where, as you mentioned, a lot of times where you have this diverse community, and when you look at the numbers and seeing, especially for African American community, is like in the 90% voting Democrat, and and when you have numbers like that, I can understand from a business point of view, or at least from an investment. Like if I was going to invest in anything, and if I saw numbers like that, you would probably want to push back as far as wanting to continue. But what I will say is that that's the long term. You got to look into it because you can't just go straight into it for a couple of months and thinking you're going to get something and return on investment in that sense. But that's where like organizations like Blexit need to come in, and that's what we're doing as far as trying to be there and let people know in the community that there is a better way, because what we have been doing in our community for decades now, we can see for ourselves that it is not working, and but yet we're being misled to the point to make it seem like, oh, this is the only way um, for us to move forward or for us to have any sort of success. It goes down to one of our four pillars. So is encouraging entrepreneurship. And that's one thing where everyone, regardless of your white or black, is also, we all want to be successful and want to have that entrepreneurial spirit. And that's another thing that where we try to reach out and try to, when it comes to entrepreneurship, to kind of get away from those regulations and try to help people to where they can be able to run their own business without the government being in the way.
You know, Republicans, when they want to be successful, they can be. And I remind people of this story, and I'm sure you're familiar with it, but the Republican Party was founded in Wisconsin for one reason and one
Mhm.
reason only, and that was for the elimination of slavery in this country. And it didn't take too long between the time the Republican Party was founded, they elected their first Republican, Abraham Lincoln, to the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, to Juneteenth, which culminated in the final a notice in Galveston to the slaves that they were in fact free. It didn't take a long time. So Republicans, when they want to accomplish something and work together, we can do it. One of the sad things that I've seen happen over the years, and by the way, let me just tell you, and I don't know if you ever watch PBS, but there's a Harvard professor, historian by the name of Henry Louis Gates Jr., who has a program on PBS called Finding Your Roots. Um, and I've come to appreciate the struggles of the African American community, and sometimes I kind of recoil, Brian, when I hear stories about some states, some governors not wanting to teach African American history. And my question to Republicans is, what are we afraid of? Why are we afraid to tell this true story of the history of African Americans that have made such great contributions in this country? One of the things that I've learned watching a lot of historic documentaries is I heard a quote, and I can't remember who said this, but that no one has struggled harder and longer for the principles enshrined in the Bill of Rights and the United States Constitution than the African American community. You have a comment on that?
Well, that kind of goes into another one of our pillars, which is promoting American history. And when we talk about promoting American history, we're not talking about 1619. We're not talking about CRT. And so I can see where it comes to where in a lot of these school districts where in they may say they're talking about African American history, but it's really a biased view, and it's they're normally talking about 1619 or critical race theory in it's kind of within that. It's kind of twisted into that subject a lot of times, especially with a lot of these more progressive school districts are putting that in there. And so I can understand that's where a lot of, especially Republican governors, are fighting that, and but it makes it seem like they're just against African American history. But a lot of times it's a lot more in that
But
are
let me ask you a
entwined in that.
question. Do you think the media blows it out of proportion? This is what I'm asking you, because when you turn on the national news, whether it's ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, it's all these horrible governors that want to eradicate the teaching of of African American history. And what you're saying is that you believe as well that it shouldn't be sort of, for the lack of a better word, Afrocentric, that it ought to be taught as the American experience. Is that what I'm
Hmm.
hearing you say? Because I wholeheartedly agree
Yeah.
with that. I think every child not only needs to learn about the Holocaust, and we need to remind them of that horrific period that led to the Second World War, but we need to remind them of the horrific period early in the 1800s and before, as in 1619 when the first slaves were brought in. But it can't be a curriculum, Brian, and I don't know if you agree with this, that pits white people against black people. I mean, we're all Americans, and I tell people this all the time because I see the United States flag hanging behind you. When I served in the military, I served with African Americans and Hispanics and some Muslims, and I served as a legal resident. I wasn't even a U.S. citizen. I immigrated here from Cuba. But we all wore one patch on our shoulder, and that was the American flag. So what I'm hearing you say is, I think you agree that we ought to teach the real history, but not a history that pits Americans against Americans.
Yeah, so just like our pillar in promoting American history, that's like we want to promote true, unbiased American history, and just showing the good and the bad. But unfortunately, these days we are seeing in a lot of these school districts where they're basically wanting to just make it um, make it like America is all bad, and also again want to inject critical race theory and just making it seem everything is the white man's fault, and that and just continue to divide the classroom and sow these seeds of in these young minds of just basically to hate America. And that's what we're trying to fight when we are trying to promote, like I said, true, unbiased American history and trying to fight that 1619 project or that critical race theory that is so pervasive throughout the country.
And part of the promotion is also tell us about your event next week and what is about, how people can be part of the event, where is the event, and tell us about that specific event.
Okay, first off, let me say Blexit.com for everyone to go to get tickets for. We are having an amazing event in Houston, and like I said, February 11th is going to be featuring Candace Owens, Brandon Tatum, Larry Elder, Will Witt, Zuby, and more. Musical performance by Space Force, and it's going to be at Warehouse Live downtown Houston. And if you want to get tickets, you can go to Blexit.com. And yes, we definitely want to see all you there.
What is the purpose of the event and what did you guys try to accomplish with that?
Well, first of all, a lot of times it's a case of where we want to let people know that we are out here to help the community. A lot of times when we have events, some people may have not even heard of Blexit. So we have our tables out. We also give basically a overview of what we are as an organization and like talk about our four pillars and just want to let people know and also kind of encourage people to know, especially minorities, blacks, to know that you're not alone. Because I know a lot of times, I know for myself, when I had my Blexit before Blexit was a thing, there were not a lot of organizations, or at least there wasn't a sense of community that I could reach out to, because at that time you kind of felt a little bit alone. And I mean, I know there was organizations out at that time, but the more the merrier, and to have us as Blexit to be out there to encourage people and to understand and help them along in their journey as far as wanting to break away from that victim mentality from these quote unquote progressive policies.
Brian, do you feel that there's a generational benefit by delivering this message to a younger generation. In other words, I see this in the Hispanic community where the older generations, the people that grew up under LULAC and the GI Forum and MALDEF, the Mexican American Legal Defense Fund, and all these other nonprofit organizations at one time did try to do some good and actually did some good on civil rights, but they've moved away to the far left. And so what I'm seeing in the Hispanic community is that the younger generation is starting to say, yeah, well, grandma, grandpa, maybe it was that way in the 50s and the 60s, but times have changed. Do you see that in the African American community? In other words, is it the younger generation that's more receptive to listening to your message than the older generation?
I would say yes, but pretty much in the sense of what's going on, whether in colleges and like whether in high school, and you still have this, in the public school system where you have this constant drumbeat of progressive policies that are being pushed uh, on young people right now, and so it's a sense of where we just have to get out there and actually let people know about whether these principles are going to actually help you out in the sense of where you're going to be successful, or it's going to be something to where you can always, again, where we kind of try to break people away from this victim mentality, where a lot of times when they go to school or where they hear voices in their community, a lot of times they're telling them that, there's they shun away from personal responsibility. And that's where we try to come in and try to instill where, conservative principles are not only best for the, black community, but they're just best for all. And like a lot of these progressive, quote unquote, progressive policies, I mean, coming from socialism or communist, basically, um, point of view, in the end, it's not going to benefit none of us in the end. And whether we want to be deceived by how the flowery language that comes around when in talking about these policies, in the end, we need to understand that it's not going to work out for anyone if these policies continue, especially in the urban communities.
I have a question for you, then I'm going to let Andrea answer. I don't know if you know the background. First of all, where are you from, Brian? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Alabama.
Alabama.
I went, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, yeah. So I was born and raised in Alabama, and I moved to Texas in 2002 when I was in the Army. My first duty station was at Fort Hood, and then I went to Korea, came back to Fort Sam, and so I just stayed.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. Andrea is a former Univision anchor and reporter for many years, but I want to ask you a question because it's always important to talk about current events and timely issues. As you know, in Memphis, we had that horrible and tragic situation where five, now six, maybe seven police officers and three MTs have been dismissed as they think they should have. If the video is, what I can go by, there's no doubt in my mind that, once you have a man or a suspect or whatever you want to call him down and handcuffed, this behavior cannot be accepted by society. But the question I want to ask you is, I've been watching NBC since that event, and with over the weekend, Diaz Balart is
Diaz Balart,
is the anchor for NBC on the weekends. NBC has led off with the video, and it's almost like they're disappointed that there weren't riots. And so, the question to me is, and God bless the parents of the victim in this situation who said, protest, but let's protest peacefully. I can't thank the parents enough for what they've done. But my question is the media doing an effective job in delivering the facts to our communities?
Um, as far as I guess you would call the mainstream media, I would say no. Uh, when we have situations that has happened in Memphis, that they are trying to play on everyone on the perception that this is some sort of epidemic, and this was just another case of police brutality, which in this case was the fact. And even in this particular sense, where in when I saw the video, yes, this is an example of police brutality in this situation. But they want to frame that and use that and seem like, okay, well, that's what's going to happen to every black man that gets pulled over, um, and it's just that's just the norm. When situations like this are the exception, not the rule. There are literally thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of police interactions that do not go this way. And there are a million different ways where a lot of these situations are not even close to anything that happened in Memphis. And so, but they don't want to talk about that. Media don't want to talk about all. Like if you look at the bigger picture of it all, and you will see that okay, this is probably 95% of the time this is not going to happen. And then even in those other times, you may find other factors that may enlighten where you see like, oh, okay, we see how this could come about. But that's not what the media wants to let the people know. Not only just here in the black community, but even in general, they want to basically um, just spread this I guess I would say deceptive narrative and try to make it seem like it's something that I would say truly isn't.
Yeah,
I,
I
I
mean, I
think
can tell you, my
I
opinion is NBC is really disappointed that the community has protested peacefully. I really do believe that.
Yeah, and I think the media is very responsible for this disconnection and for this. They're not helping reuniting the communities. They're just helping to discriminate more to each other, to fight more against each other, to become more angry. I mean, they're just manipulating everybody to make everything worse. And instead of trying to bring everybody together like we used to be, I mean, it took us decades, years, efforts to finally not discriminate to each other. And then the last years, I've been seeing horrible things happening, and the media has a big responsibility in that.
I would say not only the news media, entertainment media, sports media, along with academia, put all those together, you have a just basically a conglomerate of all of these entities that are basically kind of pushing the same agenda, whether it's some sort of hatred of America, hatred of the police, hatred of conservative principles, and they're all just pointing everyone to that same progressive, like I say quote unquote progressive because there's nothing progressive about these policies, to where they want to have everyone to basically fall in line. And again, this also goes along with council culture. Like if you're not falling in line, then they're going to try to kick you off of social media and then try to make sure that you don't have any voice at all. And so, yeah, with all those put together, yeah, it happens every time. And that's another thing where we at Blexit are trying to break through all of that and trying to show people a better way.
And you're absolutely right when you said that there are hundreds of thousands, if not a 250,000 interactions between police and the community in this country, and most of them are, flawless. There's always bad apples in any organization. I mean, if you go to a hospital, there's a bad surgeon. They'll make a mistake. I mean, we hear it all the time. Or they may prescribe the wrong medicine, or they may amputate the wrong limb, or they make a mistake and people die. I mean, we're humans. We all make mistakes. And so I'm not saying this is an excuse, but I remember in the 70s, you may not know this story, but I grew up in Houston, Texas. There was a young Army veteran who was arrested by the Houston Police Department. They handcuffed him, and they beat him. And then they took him to the bayou behind the police station over there in Houston and tied some stones around him and threw him in the water, and the man drowned. I mean, yes, there's bad apples. There's bad actors, and those things ought to be highlighted, and we have to make sure that this never happens again. But there's things we can do to improve the quality of education for peace officers, but I think the media just tries to foment this stuff, and it's just absurd to me, and I just wanted to get your opinion on that. I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Ryan Guillen, the first guest we had, who, as I told you, switched parties. It takes leadership. You're going against the grain of what's popular in the African American community. And for that, I salute you. I salute you for your service to this country. I salute you for having the courage to stand up and say, wait a minute, maybe we need to rethink these tenets that we've all fallen victim to that are now not helping our community. So I want to thank you for coming on the program. I want to thank you for your leadership. I want to thank you for your service. And I hope that, I'm going to make an effort to go out on the 11th to see what you guys
Yeah,
are
it's
all
gonna
about.
be
I'd
here
like
in
to get to
Houston.
meet you personally. And so look for us there. We're happy to help you in any way we can. I want to make this program available to you. Even though our title is Texas Latino Conservatives, we're all Americans. We're all in this fight together. So I want to invite you to come back and give us an update from time to time about what's going on in your organization.
And actually, Brian, we just had a leadership Latino class that we offered through the year, and this time it was a campaign boot camp for people that want to run for office, or they want to volunteer, or they want to have something to do with any race, a political race. And we have one African American person coming from Dallas.
We had two.
We have two, yes. Yeah. But one of them approached to me and he said, Andrea, do you guys have something for African Americans? Do you guys offer something? Because he's a Latino, Texas Latino Conservatives. And I was like, well, we don't discriminate nobody. And we're so happy that you're here. And he said, well, we need to reunite it. We need to come together, and we would love to have something in Dallas for the African American community under Texas Latino Conservatives. And we were having our staff meeting, and we were talking about that. And we said, you know what? Let's open the doors, or let's let them know, because our doors are open, but not everybody knows. So let them know that African American people, anybody, is welcome in our organization if they feel that their values and we are the voice for them. So we are extending the invitation to you guys too, and your organization, and to yourself and all your community, that if you guys feel that we can contribute in something to bring us together, so please, let's work together. So TLC, it's welcome, the African American, the Latinos from everywhere, and the Americans in general that also share the conservative values.
Oh, well, thank you, and also just thank you for having me on. Actually, I found out about about your organization was through that event that just passed, and so I'm like, oh, I didn't know about the organizations, and at that time I was I was asking, could I come by during that event to do what I'm doing now, and I just wanted to kind of promote the event because I knew it was going to be in Houston. So, but yeah, we would love to come back on, and like to also, again, I just want to invite everyone, like I said, February 11th, downtown Houston, Candace Owens, Brandon Tatum, Larry Elder, and more. And tickets are tickets are $5. Also want to mention that too. A lot of times, and yeah, so if you go to Blexit.com, you'll probably you should get like a pop up, and it'll take you straight to the link. And also, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. On Instagram, it's Blexit_Texas. And also, you can check out our Facebook page. It's just Blexit Texas. And also on Twitter. And all those links are on there as well.
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to put the link on our Facebook page, and we're going to promote it. We can do that through Facebook because we have a little bit of budget for advertising. And beyond that, I think what we're going to do is we're going to buy several tickets, and we're going to offer them to folks that want to, the first 10 that sign up. We will be happy to host them. So we're going to, not only am I going to come, hopefully Andrea will come, but we may bring 10, 20 folks with us that we're going to pick up the tab for them.
All right. Well, the more the merrier. And like, we want to have this, great big event, and we want everyone to be out there. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you.
Good to see
That's
you, Brian.
great.
Thank you. Godspeed. And again, thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Brian, thank you so much. Wow, that's awesome. I love that we're like
And it's grassroots. I mean, it's not like he's not getting paid by anyone.
No.
It's organic.
Yeah.
And this is what's happened down in South Texas.
Yeah.
It's nothing the Republicans have done. It's nothing he's getting paid for. This is organic. Brian is reaching out to us because he knows what we're doing. And this is all organic growth. And this is the exciting thing that conservatives need to be excited about, is that young folks are embracing this optimistic, positive message about conservatism, which is liberty, free markets, teaching a real education to children, giving them an economic opportunity to compete. And, the hell with the division, the hell with dividing us by gay and LGBT and African American and Latino American and Asian American, and you're Muslim and you're Christian. We're so past that.
Of course, we are. We are here, and we are. I consider myself American, even though that I have this accent, and you're still teaching me English, and I still working on my English. But I feel that I am part of this country. I feel my kids are in this country. They feel that they are part of this country. They are from this country. My parents are living here. They love this country. We all love this country. I love this country. I don't know if it's as much as or more than I love my own country. I live in this country. I've been raising my family here, and I've been really making my dreams come true in this country, not in my own country. So that's the ironic of this situation.
One of my favorite lines in the Declaration of Independence, and there's a lot of great lines in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, but one of my favorite lines is to form a more perfect union. And I remind my fellow Americans that we should always be in the pursuit of forming a more perfect union. And nothing can be more perfect than Americans working together, of every creed, of every race, of every religion, of every choice, whatever they want to be. This is the beauty of America, that according to the Constitution, you have these rights to speech and association and the press, and everybody is covered by that. It doesn't say certain people, although at one point in our history we did say, those things, but those have been done away with, and we're always in search of a more perfect union. That's the reason I'm a conservative. I want to spread that message, that message of hope and opportunity, economic upward mobility to every child in this country, regardless of if you're living in an urban area, a suburban area, a rural area. This is why education is so important to me. And I'm just, I'm grateful to leaders like the ones we've had today. Ryan making the decision to flip from Democrat to Republican. John Lujan running in San Antonio as a Republican in a Democrat district and winning twice. Brian Bledsoe, standing up as a veteran of the United States Army and saying, these aren't my values. It's amazing.
I know. So we're looking forward to being his event that is going to be in Houston. So thank you so much for being with us, and thank you so much for everybody who attends our campaign bootcamp in Leadership Latino. It was a very successful event.
So did you tell them it was our largest class ever?
It was our largest class ever. We're putting all the videos and pictures together to show you guys next Wednesday because it needs editing, but it was amazing to see everybody coming from out of town, everybody coming on Friday. We have a little bit of a get-together on Friday.
It's called a reception.
A reception. Talking to everybody, getting to know them. We were taking headshots of them, and the excitement, las ganas que tenían, the excitement of doing this to serve their community, to learn about not only our organization, Texas Latino Conservative, but be part of Leadership Latino, that every time that we do Leadership Latino, we're getting better and better and better.
Well, not only that, but again, I want to thank our sponsors and our contributors and the visionaries that helped us get started, because that was the vision of one of the men that helped start Texas Latino Conservatives, was how do we build a database? How do we get this message out? How do we find exponents to go out into the community and it's paying off. And so we've been doing this for several years, teaching all these conservatives across the state of Texas. Now we have hundreds graduates, and these graduates are branching out into their communities and taking the skills that they learn. And what we teach them is, if you want to run for office, we're going to do a professional headshot of you. We're going to give you a template for a web page. We're going to help you file your forms with the Texas Ethics Commission. We have resources here to help you. In some cases, we'll even come in and do some campaigning for
Media
them.
training.
Media training, how to dress, how to speak, how to debate, what questions to answer, what questions to deflect. I mean, these are all great skills. And these hundreds of young people are now fanned across the state of Texas talking about conservatism, not in a, in a hysterical way, but in a very calm way, not in a combative way, and explaining what our principles are. And to me, it's just amazing to see this transformation in Texas. And we hope that we can, help other states. I know we've been contacted in the past by leaders in New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado. So we're happy to share our skills with anybody where, and for those of you that want to do like Ryan and switch, you're welcome to join us.
And maybe one day we're going to be U.S. Latino conservatives instead of being just Texas.
My runway's pretty short.
Ok, muchísimas gracias por habernos acompañado. Nos vemos el próximo miércoles. Chao, chao. Y visite nuestra página de internet, texaslatinoconservatives.com, texaslatinoconservatives.com. Stay tuned for our future events. Nos vemos el próximo miércoles.